Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video here on Moto. Today I'm going to show you the secret technique that made me be able to stunt on my 50cc derby senda as well as my Husqvarna Te125. So if you have followed me on YouTube for quite a while, you might have noticed that I used a special wheelie technique at the beginning of my wheelie career. This technique not only helped me with my wheelies, but it also made me develop the brake control I needed to do a scrapey on my 50cc derby senda. So I'm going to begin the video with showing how you do a normal wheelie, and then after that I'm going to show you how to do a wheelie with that wheelie technique. And we're also going to discuss the benefits and the cons of using that technique. So let's begin by showing you how to do a normal wheelie. Okay, so now I'm going to do a really quick wheelie tutorial and show you how to do a wheelie in the normal way. So before you learn any kind of wheelies, you always want to begin by learning your brake control. And how you do this is simply by being in first gear, have your right foot on your back brake, hold the clutch with one finger. You can have two fingers, but I recommend one finger. And then what you want to do is that you want to rev up your engine and release the clutch. And once you're up in the wheelie, you want to tap your back brake and release the throttle, so you come down from the wheelie. I'm gonna show you how to do it now. Yeah, you see, just like that. So you're going up and press your back brake. So what this is going to do is that you're going to learn how to control the back brake a little bit, just enough so that you might be able to save yourself if you loop your wheelie. So once you have practiced how to do the brake control for a while, you can start by doing the real wheelies. Depending on what type of bike you have, the technique may vary. But if you're on a moped, I have plenty of tutorials on my channel where I show you how to wheelie on a stock 50cc bike. So this works for any kind of bike, 125cc upwards to 500 or 701, any bike like that. So what you want to do, have some speed, be in like second or third gear, pull in the clutch, rev the engine and release the clutch. Yes. And that's how you get the bike up on the back wheel. Okay, now I have taught you how to get the bike up on one wheel. Now I'm gonna show you how to control the wheelie. So when you're doing a wheelie, you're controlling the wheelie with your throttle. If you're too far down from the wheelie, you just give some throttle and you get up on the back wheel. And if you're too far back, you release the throttle. Sometimes you get way too far back, and that's when the rear brake comes in place. And when you come too far back, you want to tap your rear brake, just like this. And you come down from the wheelie. So when you're doing a normal wheelie, you're controlling the wheelie with your throttle, and occasionally you will get behind the balance point and you have to use your rear brake to get in front of the balance point again. So a normal wheelie, in front of the balance point you're using your throttle to control the wheelie, and behind the balance point you're using your rear brake to get back in front of the balance point. But now I'm going to show you how to do a wheelie with my old technique. So let's begin. Okay, so now I'm going to reveal my wheelie technique, and hopefully you will learn something from this. I recommend using this technique on bikes that have less power than a 450. If you have a 450 bike, I'm not sure if this kind of technique is gonna help you much because you're probably gonna loop your bike. But if you have a 125cc, a moped, or maybe a 250 or something like that, this technique will probably help you a lot with your wheelies. Okay, so before I tell you the technique, I'm gonna show it so you can look at it, and then I'm gonna describe it in words. Yes, and that is the technique. Okay, now let's break down the technique in different parts. So as you saw in the video, my throttle was pinned at the same position all the time. And then you might ask, how did I control the wheelie? Because as I said before, you control a wheelie with your throttle. Well, how I did it was simply by having my foot on the rear brake all the time and controlling the wheelie with my foot. As I said before, with a normal wheelie, you control the wheelie in front of the balance point with your throttle and behind the balance point with your rear brake. But with this method, you control the wheelie always with your rear brake. So it doesn't matter where you are on the balance point, you're always using your rear brake to control the wheelie. So if you have a stock 50cc moped, you can have your throttle pinned all the time on full throttle. But if you have a 125cc or anything higher than that, you want to have just as little throttle as possible and then use your rear brake. So now you might think, why would I use this technique? But now I'm going to talk about the cons and the benefits of using this technique. Let's begin with the cons. Since you're always having your foot on the rear brake and having your throttle pinned, your brake pads will break down a lot faster than if you would do a normal wheelie. Your rear brake might also overheat, so I recommend using this technique not too much, because, well, then your rear brake might overheat and you might get brake fade. Another con with this technique is that it's not super good for the engine. It's better for the engine to do a normal wheelie with the normal technique, but it doesn't hurt the engine that much. I used this technique for about half a year or something like that, and my engine was just fine. And since you're just only given a little bit of throttle and using your rear brake to control the wheelie, your engine won't brake as much as it would have if you had full throttle on all the time. Another thing that's bad about this wheelie technique is that if you get too far back behind the balance point and you still have your throttle pinned, you're probably gonna crash, because gravity pulls you down and the throttle pulls you down, so your rear brake might just not hold up with this. So if you get too far back behind the balance point, you're gonna have to let go of your throttle. Okay, now let's begin with the benefits of using this technique when you're doing wheelies. The main thing that this technique is going to do for you is to help you with your brake control. If you learn your wheelies by doing this technique, you will have a lot easier time learning scrapes and stunt tricks where you have to be really far back behind the balance point. And that's because when you're doing this wheelie technique, you're using the same technique as you would have when you do a normal wheelie and you're behind the balance point, which means that you're always using a rear brake to control the wheelie. And this technique is also going to save you so many times when you're doing the normal wheelies. If you grind this technique very much, the brake control will get imprinted inside your skull, and you will always have the reflexes to put down your back brake when you're too far back on the wheelie. So that is very beneficial.
Okay, so this wheelie technique isn't supposed to replace the normal wheelie technique. Its purpose is to help you learn the brake control with highly precision. Once you've mastered this technique and started to learn how to coast, I recommend using the normal technique as I told you in the beginning of the video. The technique is also a great way to warm up before a long wheelie session, because you will practice your brake control and the balance point.
Okay, so now I have showed you how to do a normal wheelie on your bike, as well how to do my secret wheelie technique that made me be able to do super good wheelies on a stock 50cc bike, as well as my Husqvarna. So if you have a moped or a 125cc, maybe a 450, I think you can use this technique, and I think it will benefit you a lot with your wheelie journey. It will help you with your brake control, it will help you learn the scrapies a lot faster, and you will get super good at wheelies in general. So I hope you learned something new in this video. And if you have any more questions on how to do this technique or wheelies in general, please comment them down below and I will help you as good as possible. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and maybe drop a nice comment, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!